My name is Lungima Minza, and as said, I'm currently serving with some of my colleagues that side in the RSR board. I'd like to remind everyone that working for the railways is like a national service. So we all feel we're doing something very important in our own countries. And also, I would be making a mistake in not addressing a previous question that was asked in the other session around why should we pay the rail safety regulator. Because you pay for what you get. It's a service. I think my colleague tried to be a little bit, what do you call it when you don't want to be direct? Yeah, so directly you pay, it's a service. That's what we're doing. We're trying to provide safety, but it doesn't happen for free and it needs to be paid for. So without further ado, welcome again and thank you very much for the guys that have made in. We have a topic today that is very interesting because there's no industry without a customer. So rail customer focus and service excellence in freight is our topic. And I'll call our participants. From CFM, there's Ms. Emelinda Sherinda. I hope I said that correctly. Could she make it up? Give her a round of applause. Then I have Mr. Kapempe Khitsane, and I think he corrected me, so I'm nervous pronouncing what I should know. Yeah? Kapempe Khitsane, is he coming? That's it. And in your program, you might have Mr. Jacob, but now we've got Mr. Takando Madana. I hope I also corrected that. I said it correctly. Please correct me at your first convenience. Give them a round of applause. Did I get it right? Madana. Takunda Madana. Okay? And then I've got Mr. Bonkos Mabaso. And Mr. Desmond van Jasveld. And then Ms. Nomvuyo Lulu. Are we all here? Cool. So I just want to say a couple of things. Oh, thank you. Maybe I should sit down now. So before that, I'd just like to say that everyone in the room may know very high level what the topic is dealing with. Focus and service excellence. I think the previous sessions have helped us to define this, that if you are able to deliver the cargo of a client safely, which was emphasized, on time and in full, you really are a long way towards satisfying this topic. But as I say, this is my layman. And of course, there's the right price that's got to come into this. So I'd like to say that within the rail industry, across, I think, all our regions, we've had our difficulties, whether it be funding, whether it be deteriorating state of the network, whether it be reliability, lack of spares to fix things. But the truth of the matter is that an industry exists because there are customers, and an industry needs to respond to those customers. Failing to respond to the customer in the manner which I said, safely, on time, and in full, and for the right price, renders you irrelevant for the field that you're playing in. I was talking with a colleague, and we were mentioning how a brilliant idea becomes irrelevant if it does not get executed. There are concepts that have been spoken about for so long. They put people to sleep even though they are good concepts. And because I've said it like that, I probably am not gonna label them. But we've been wanting to integrate the region for so long. And what it looks like we're failing at is the execution. And I'd like to implore on our panelists to stick to the implementation, to stick to the execution, and perhaps lighten up on the theoretical part. Do you guys have presentations to pop up? Great, because I want this to be a conversation. So thanks, I'm just gonna sit down now. So as I sit down, maybe you should start, if you could give us in a minute or so your name, your background, and just introduce yourself. Thanks.
Thank you very much. My name is Melinda Shirinda. I'm a commercial director working for Mozambique Port and Railways. So as you mentioned, our real focus is the customer. If there are no customer, there are no business. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon all. My name is Gampepe Khitsane, representing Glencore. I am look after the rail operation for the Ferroalloys division and department entirely. And yeah, I'm looking forward to just the insights amongst the various rail operators here and insights from our industry in basically understanding us as a voice of the customer. Thanks.
Good afternoon. The name is Takunda Madana from the National Railways of Zimbabwe. My role there being the Chief Marketing and Business Development Manager. Like what the session chair said, every business will survive if it has got customers. So my role is mainly to look after the customer requirements, engaging the customer to understand the expectations, and also then internally work with colleagues to ensure that we deliver the customer expectations. In short, that's what we do. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bonkosi Mabaso. I am the guy that gets blamed when things go wrong in rail by the customers, but my full-time job is Chief Commercial Officer for Transnet Freight Rail. I drive the commercial strategy for the business and also am responsible for managing and maintaining healthy relations with customers.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Desmond van Jaarsveld, CEO of Transnamib. I joined the company in April this year, and background from asset management, making beer, and in transport. And I'm looking forward to a great discussion with my colleagues.
Good afternoon, esteemed delegates. My name is Nomvuyo Dludlu. I'm the director responsible for business development. So basically what that entails is listening to the customer, customizing whatever product towards their needs. So my background generally has been on strategy. I've been a corporate planner for the longest time at Eswatini Railways. So when we implement our strategy, I have a good understanding that it all begins with the customer. So just to lean back to what the facilitator was saying, that at the core of everything is the customer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, panelists. So let's dive into this now. I'm going to ask each of you to give your keynote, your presentation in a way, verbally, and in doing so, please talk about your understanding of the railway customer. I suppose the customer himself will actually discuss how he wants to be recognized. That's Glencore. Please talk about how you are practically enhancing service, customer service in rail operation. Talk about your best practice, etc. So let's start with those two questions and then we'll come back with the next questions. Maybe just to give it a bit of shaky. Let's start on the other side with Nomvuyo from Eswatini.
Thank you once again. Could you please recast your expectation again?
Pardon?
Please rephrase.
Rephrase.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Rephrase is better than repeat what you said. So I'd like you to tell us about your understanding of the railway customer, especially since you're the operator, so that's going to be important. Delve into their customer needs and expectations from the service as far as Eswatini experiences that. And then talk about the best practices and deliver exceptional customer service that Eswatini is currently involved in.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. So what we do at Eswatini Railways is that we have quarterly performance review sessions. The reason why we do that is to have a clear understanding of the needs of our customers so that we don't assume that this is what they want. Of course, we have our strategy, but our strategy is a rolling and very much alive strategy. So we believe that we need to be very agile and responsive to the customer needs, which are ever changing. So as an organization, we are constantly adapting to the feedback that we receive from the customer performance review sessions. I must say though that these are one of the hardest sessions because the customers know exactly what they are looking for. So when they stipulate what they are looking for, we need to then act. We do not say or overpromise, we tell them what we have, but again, we lean on the strategic partnerships that we have with the railways here, especially TFR and CFM, and we work towards ensuring that we achieve those needs. So going back to the customer performance reviews. So what happens there is that, again, we listen. We don't talk much, we take notes, we listen. And then we are able to say that, yes, we have these huge customers that give us a lot of revenue. And then we have customers that are there, but they are very strategic. Strategic in the sense that they promote economic growth, even though they don't give us much in terms of railways, but in terms of growing the economy, they become strategic. So again, we target and segment those customers accordingly. You know, I'm happy to report today that Eswatini is one of the fastest growing economies. Last year, we had a growth rate of about 4% and more. Reason being, we understand that when we get the transportation right, then the cost of doing business for the average customer reduces. So when the cost of doing business reduces, it means that there's a lot of inputs that can then come into the country, and there's a lot of exports. Our economies grow as long as we export as much as we can. So there are those customers that are strategic economy, but they do not give us much revenue. So what then happens there is that we push their products regardless. So when we talk about timber, when we talk about sugar, they're not really our cash cows, but what happens is that eventually it translates to the entire economy growing. So as long as we are efficient there, then overall, because it's not about the railways per se, it's not about us making profits, it's about the fact that railways are strategic and they contribute to the growth of the economy as large, at large. And then lastly, we have the smaller customers. I know sometimes you say, because of limited resources, especially the rolling stock, let's prioritize and focus on where we can make money. Again, we do not sideline the smaller customers. We find ways to integrate with the neighboring railways to say, is it possible for us to possibly consolidate containers so that if there's a train that's going to Maputo, for example, we hook on these containers, but regardless of the fact that there are 2 or 3 of these containers, find a way of just hooking them and taking it to the port. So we are constantly innovating around how best do we meet customer needs given the limited resources. So in terms of segmenting the customers, that is what we have done. We have done as what in railways.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Nomvuyo. If we could then move with a similar question to Desmond. You could, with your 4 months, you should be singing this. Please carry on answering those 2 concepts that we spoke about, if you remember them. Do I need to repeat?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's common knowledge, and with all the exciting developments currently in Namibia, with the exploration of oil and gas, some economic viable findings were made, the explosion of mining, especially uranium, that has forced us and placed us in a nice position as a company. Yes, we've got 60 plus locomotives, way old, 1,500 coaches and wagons, old. And I think the positive development it's been work done over many years, but over the last couple of months, we've secured 2.6 billion South African rand from the Development Banks of Namibia and Development Bank of SA. How will that support our customer service drive? Because I was mentioning earlier our aging stock, our aging rolling stock infrastructure. Our top 10 customers in Namibia, it's a small country, as you know. Small country, 80%, our top 10 customers deliver 80% of our turnover. How do we service them? Average, because of the old and antiquated equipment. Luckily and fortunate for us, and after hard work of my predecessors, we secured those loans, and we will go into the market very soon to procure new rolling stock and wagons to support that drive. With the oil and gas, and especially green hydrogen, this is one topic that is very much high on our president's agenda and our former late president's agenda, the development of green hydrogen, that we as a country should take lead in that in Africa, and good strides have been made. So the competitive and customer landscape, Mr. Chair, it's changing constantly on our side in Namibia. And the other aspect, we cannot ignore our neighboring countries. The regional integration with the Trans-Kalahari Railway, the Trans-Kunene, etc. It's only to name a few. That is vital, and our government is working hard with their counterparts in Botswana and Angola to make sure it happens. Internally in Namibia, we've got approximately 2,600 kilometers of rail. So it shows you it's just north, south, east, and west. But I think and I know that the biggest drawback is currently the regional integration, which will open up the copper route from DRC and Zambia, etc. We are already connected to Transnet's rail in Uppington for manganese transport from the Northern Cape. So our, let's call it customer landscape, is changing quite dramatically, and it's quite exciting.
Thank you, Desmond. Bonkos, maybe tell us your version as the operator in the country.
Thank you. So first of all, as a rail operator, we support 186 key customers. If you look at our entire customer landscape, we're looking at over 400 customers. Key customers will account for 186 across 54 industries and commodities. So because of that, I think over the years, we've learned to get to understand the various requirements of all customers across different landscapes. If there's one thing that's common about these customers, to your question, Maminza, as to how do we perceive a customer, a railway customer. A railway customer is, in relation to railways, a customer that is in transit. In other words, in shaping your thinking around what a customer should look like, you ought to consider the fact that before they became a customer in railways, they are an off-taker somewhere or a producer somewhere, and then later on in the value chain, they are also a seller or consumer of whatever is moving via rail. The minute you start having that perspective in mind, it really starts shaping how you solution for customers and how you sort of drive commercial discussions and conversations with the customer. If you just purely focus on them being a customer on railways, it will really limit what you put on the table in relation to those conversations. So if you ask me what is a railway customer, it's a customer in transit. There's something else before railways, there's something else after railways, and all of that needs to be considered in the value chain.
Okay. Thank you. Tagando?
Thank you very much. From the National Railways of Zimbabwe, the understanding that we have, which is shared from the board to the lowest man on the ground, is that the customer is the king. The customer is the paymaster. Without a customer, there is no company to talk about. So we believe that for us to understand this customer, there is no one else who knows the customer better than the customer themselves. So we prioritize the issue of customer engagements. We want to engage the customers more. We want to understand from them what is it that they expect from us, so that we are in a position now to respond to the customers' expectations. And we believe doing so, then we are able to deliver to the customers' expectations. And thereby, maybe we are able to get the repeat orders from the customers. So from the engagements, what did we pick from the customers? From the engagements with our customers, we picked that the customers, they are looking for an end-to-end solution. They want you to engage with the miners, they want you to engage with the manufacturers so that you provide the transport services. They also want you to engage with the customs officials. They want you to engage with the regulators so that whatever solution that you are giving them, it is talking to their expectations. For us, we also have other customers who are moving over border traffics. They then also expect you to link up with the contiguous railway systems, to also link up with the port authorities, so that you are in a position to provide a seamless service right from the pit to the port. So, as part of our strategies, what do? We have joint marketing initiatives or joint customer engagements. If we're talking to traffic going to Maputo, we always interface with my colleague Emelinda here to make sure that we jointly provide a service to the customers. If we're talking to traffic coming through Eswatini, we are always talking with my colleague Nomvuyo to make sure that whatever we are doing is aligned to the customers' expectations. So these are some of the key issues, but what are the factors which they consider, which they want us to align to? They want cargo safety. They want a right price. They want us to always track the cargo, tell them where they are, the position of their cargo. They also expect us to say, no, yes, the price is right. Yes, you are providing cargo security. Yes, you have interfaced with everyone within the supply chain. But there is also the human capital issue, where they are saying, no, this service is supposed to be delivered in a customer-friendly manner. So customer care also becomes critical when we are delivering all these expectations. So critical to the delivery of a good service is also investment in developing our staff, because we believe you can only give what you have. So they must internalize themselves customer care before they even face the customer. So investment in customer care, especially frontline staff, is critical at National Railways of Zimbabwe. So we do talk to that critically. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. And then I'm gonna skip you, Kapempe, and actually come to Melinda, and I will end off with the customer so that we hear the real story after all of this.
Thank you very much. Okay. Much better. Thank you. To say, strategically, what we have been doing on CFM side in terms of responding to the customer needs, we look at the demand is way high than what we are responding. Our company is a very centenary company with more than 100 years. We are going to 130 next year. So on the past years, we have been doing focus on modernization, innovation of systems, acquisition of new rolling stock in order to respond to the customer need. We know that rail investment sometimes may take long. We're not able to respond immediately, but then we'll have a short-term plan, medium and long, which will then align with the other railways partners. If we look, Mozambique is strategically located with the ports to serve some countries inland like Zimbabwe, Eswatini. So together we make an integrated plan where then we can come up to respond to the customer. Just an example, action that we are now on processing in terms of system is we call Rail to Port that we launched a few months ago, 2 months, which we integrate with the port in order to give visibility. That visibility not only for the rail operator, but to the customer and main to the customer. We want the customer to be able to see where are their cargo in any given time. And we believe that with that also will help in terms of efficiency because then we'll reduce the bottlenecks and the transit time, and then we'll be able to deliver maybe better service to our customer. And also we feel or we believe that that will put our customer more close to us. Taking in Maputo, talking to the south, we integrate with the 3 corridors, one to South Africa, Eswatini, and Zimbabwe. The one integrated to South Africa actually is the most busy one, although it's just 80 kilometers. We have done a duplication on the line, not yet completed, but we have done up to 62 kilometers. Second phase will come to complete the other 26. But all that is on the objective to respond the needs of our customer. How we engage, as Madanya already mentioned, we coordinate together. We align also with the ports in terms of what action can be taken in terms to accommodate what the market is offering, how to respond as much quicker as possible to our customer. So we do joint approach in order to give a full or complete answer to the customer. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you for all of that. May we get the customer view about this whole matter, especially after you've heard what you've heard? Thanks.
All right. All right, no, I mean, taking into consideration sort of the needs and expectations that from a customer perspective, sort of representing or being a voice of the mining industry, it's important to sort of comprehend the diverse needs and expectations that are required from a railway customer. And it's attributed to these, I'll rank it in terms of the priorities. Number one being the safety and security element. I think, along the value chain end to end, or every point along the supply chain, the safety of cargo, the safety at the rail facilities where the loading happens, so operationally and up to the end destination being the port, is paramount, and it's a big drive, an important factor for us sort of coming from the mining industry. So with collaborative efforts from industry themselves and in trying to drive a safety initiative in collaboration with then the railway operators, your TFRs, your CFMs, and even expanding beyond the sort of parameters of who we currently deal with, the Transnamib, the NRZ side. I think that collaborative effort definitely is top of the list. Second to that, timeliness. When you look at an on-time arrival, on-time departure perspective, the proactive communication in that, which talks to, again, now transparency, really does help us in knowing the real-time information sharing. When for a long time, the industry, from a rail perspective, has been that of a scheduled railway. So the constant communication on when the arrival of empty trains or departs at certain departure times, if that is communicated timelessly, that then sort of assists us to plan accordingly, to align, to liaise, and to ensure that sort of a smooth transition depot to depot from start to finish sort of satisfies us. Transparency, I touched on it earlier, by providing a clear, real-time information facilitates or fosters trust. And once there is trust, that is a key driver in collaboration. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to drive collaboration amongst the service providers so that we work in parallel with one another. You mentioned that you're really trying to understand the needs of the customer, and collaborating, I think, is a short, medium, and long-term effort that needs all parties involved. You'll know or read about that, the industry, various industries, are collaborating in different forums, trying to understand one another and trying to see how best to make use of rail. I think it goes back to sort of what you're saying, that yes, the railway customer makes up for the railway operators' movement, but more importantly, it's a joint effort in making it happen. Yes, we provide the volumes, the tonnage, the commodities, but again, that cannot go without the other, and that's why it is such an important part that, from a transparency, a timeless element, safety, the security, and lastly, flexibility. With the changing market conditions, which are sort of cyclical, with its ups and downs, we have to be able to adapt to changing market conditions. As we know, it's not always sort of a stagnant industry. When things happen, challenges that occur, changing market conditions, prices, volume, it's always on the ball. Can the rail service operators adapt to the changing market conditions? And I think, that's sort of a two-way thing. Provided that there is the transparency, as I'd mentioned, and the communication back and forth, that can definitely help foster or allow for adapting to the flexibility that sort of does occur. I'll touch on the customer service. That's also important. Customer service is a vital component for successful rail operations. Proactive communication. So all of these sort of tie in with what I'm saying overall as a culmination of what you're trying to hear. So the proactive communication, where there are regular updates on any sort of challenges, as and when, again, talking to transparency. Technology integration, that's also an important one that sort of alluded to there. As you all know, we are in a phase of this fourth industrial revolution, and with the current use of technologies that are out there, I know they touched on it earlier with other presentations, the sort of blockchain, Internet of Things, the digitization. I think having that kind of current thinking and leaving the legacy systems and adapting to the change and using the advantage or leveraging off what technology can do for the industry can definitely put us up against, you know, these first world nations where they have working and running railway systems in place, beyond sort of the scope of South Africa and even Africa as a whole. If we start to now benchmark with sort of European nations and the Americas and the like. So I think technology is something, obviously, you know, goes without saying, we do need some sort of significant investment in aligning the technologies that we currently use versus what is currently in play from a railway perspective. So again, it will be beneficial to us as a whole, customer, supplier, and provider of the railway service. I think talking to your point earlier, you had mentioned, you know, the training, the staff training, those will sort of help develop your skills and knowledge on whether it be monthly, quarterly, annually, just sort of equip the guys that are customer facing to resolve issues efficiently and effectively. And I think maybe finally, a sort of customer-centric culture where it's a customer-first mindset throughout the organization, in that you're prioritizing the needs of the customer. Again, talking to what the expectations are from an industry perspective. In also then helps foster the customized solutions. Again, talking to the flexibility and adapting to the various changing needs. On an operational level, you know, if you look at the offload.
So maybe, because I'm going to come back
Sure.
on the next round,
Okay.
I think, thank you for that first round of inputs from everyone. What I'm hearing, and without even asking some of the question, it was quite nice to see the different operators introducing the customer feedback, introducing the actual definition in terms of seeing the importance of how you are part of a value chain as a transporter. You're not an end in yourself, and how that can be so important. The initiatives of training, the initiatives of agility that was spoken about, the initiatives of integration, which is what we're all about, being where we are. So it was quite encouraging to hear all those inputs without necessarily soliciting them. And what I was hearing from the customer is, you know, safety and security, it sounds intuitive, but no one gives their goods to someone to be told that something happened. So it pulls in the actual security part, but it also pulls in the safety part in terms of incidences, losing your goods, and insurance issues, and so on and so forth. And I think what I liked, you know, the communication was linked with the on time in full. So I'm still an avid believer that a customer doesn't have to hear from you unless it's necessary. So there's something to communicate what needs to be done. They spoke about transparency, which is a fancy word of don't lie. So don't tell me lies so that I can plan as a customer about the alternatives and the reality. And I think these become the challenges across the different operators as we look into a future where we are better collaborating. So if we're not transparent and we're not sharing the information, we're likely not to deliver this service to the customer. Now, I still sensed a bit of theoretical stuff as you guys were talking, but that's probably my preference of answers. What I'd like to try and do in this last round is to say, customer, what is the worst that has happened to you, right? And be short. You're a customer, you've been a customer for this long. Think of an incident that happened to you that involves the operator. Let's use that as a scene, because I want to hear what the different operators, how they've handled their worst. We're here to learn. So if you tell us things that are in the textbooks, then we might as well have gone and read them ourselves. So just handing over to the customer, please just tell us of an incident that comes to mind that really you were thrown off about about the service, and let's let that be the elephant in the room that we deal with.
Sure. I can say a mouthful, but no. I think, let's see, maybe operationally, let's go operationally, down to an operational level, because that's where really the challenges that we do sort of encounter. And maybe I can couple it under one sort of key priority that again talks to what I'd mentioned. So the thing on communication, say there's derailment, actually derailment, let's talk derailment. On the corridors that we do move on, whether it be the North Corridor or Northeast Corridor coming from the Woodbank area going into Maputo, Richards Bay side, derailment that happens at the border. I mean, this might talk on sort of your line and your scope, but again, how we can all sort of assist one another in this, is that a train, whether it be, so a train within that has commodity within the mining space, whether it magnetite, coal, alloys, ferrochrome, chrome, what we find is that the timeliness of that communication, whether it be our rail trucks that had our cargo on, obviously we know the ripple effect that has on continuing the movement until such, whatever the derailment site has had, what that impact has on us as a customer. So as and when it happens, that real-time information sharing and visibility and transparency is not as consistent, or it's not like how we would ideally want to see it happen. And I think then that causes a lot of frustration within the industry, in that there's pressure all the time. We're trying to meet, the famous line, we're chasing vessels. And you find that we have to make alternative means or involve other role players in trying to fix the infrastructure that either has been damaged, and that communication line there's a gap that we need to bridge. And again, it goes collaboration, whether it be with CFM and TFR collectively, especially going into the Maputo side, where we have to keep pressing as a customer, what is the update? Why aren't we knowing when the site will be cleared? Does it need us physically there? What sort of, we've been asked, sometimes the industry has to pull together and make some sort of financial contribution in trying to assist in clearing the site. And remember, derailment can be big, small, but it's either the rail sort of wagons have derailed and cargo has been tipped. It could be, and then that stops all the passage of the sort of that main line going into the border. So the communication element, when we say timeless communication, on time, sort of real time information sharing really will assist us significantly so in trying to mitigate and step in assisting one another. So
Thanks for that. Thank you for that. So, Melinda, it's quite clear, there's no one who hasn't had an incident. How do you rank as far as this timeous communication? How's the organization doing as far as what the customer has pointed out? And what are you guys busy with in trying to improve in that?
Thank you. Just take you 30 seconds just to share what is actually my previous my background before commercial. Mr. Guban sitting here in front of me was the one of the ESCO members when we launched the GOC in Maputo, which is a joint operations center, where sitting by 3 railways operator, CFM, TFR, Iswatini, NRZ remotely, and the ports in Maputo. That with the objective to ensure that all communication is going through all stakeholders to minimize this kind of problem where there are derailment, the customers know in time, so can make a plan B, or even the rail operators, the plan must share immediately to reduce cost, even into the port. One of the aim was the visibility to all stakeholders. We couldn't make as such that we are doing now, but there were communication, and probably somehow where we rely on a human factor can be and delay in communicating the right person in real time. So what we are working on, as I mentioned beginning, at the moment in Maputo side, we have already integrated with the port. And at the moment, the process, we're working with TFR to integrate, and then we'll be Iswatini as well, and NRZ. That system will then help us integrate all the system, and then we'll connect a window to the customer, just to avoid, if there are derailment, the customer will be known immediately. How long that will take is other also information that come next, but at least there are derailment, this cargo won't arrive, and so on. So I believe that we are now in good action in order to minimize this type of problem. Taking this chance to say that actually our main goal at the moment is to win away the existing road traffic, which is originately belongs to the rail. Maputo statistic is showing that the port, what the port now is being delivered at the port. Like an example, last year we did 31 million tons. 68% was via road, on 32 was on the rail. We have a big task where we have to swap that. Not saying that we don't want the road, is a complementary, but the infrastructure is not even ready for that on the road. So we have to push with all advantage that we know on the rail side. So that is our big task at the moment that we work on, resulting on the modernization, rehabilitation of line, duplication, acquisition of, we're in process now of 10 locals, 300 wagons, flatbeds, 120, and containers. All that to try to respond the demand from our customers. Thank you.
Thank you. In my typical way, let me jump on to the TFR, Bonkos. If you could just complement this collaboration of the JOC, but also link it with the fact that with the pressure to get the volumes back up to the necessary levels that they've achieved before in the past, how are you dealing with the incidences that are happening as far as the customer interface? Because it still talks to the fact that there's this customer interface element.
Thank you. So you referred to our highest volumes moved, it was 220 million tons a couple of years ago. There's quite a lot on the go now for us to try and get to that. Majority of the challenges that we've been faced with require investment to turn around the corner. So what we've done over the years is we've acknowledged that customers, being the end users of our service, have got adequate muscle and resource and balance sheet to come to the party in enabling us to enable them to move more volumes. We have therefore entered into quite a number of collaborative initiatives with customers where the customers would come in and refurbish wagons, as an example. You said you don't want theoretical things. Practically, we've brought in customers that have injected funds in refurbishing rolling stock. We've brought in customers that have proposed solutions technically and technologically in terms of dealing with cable theft and vandalism. We've entered into a number of mutual cooperation agreements with various industries, where industries would come in and support some of our initiatives, either through expertise or resources in terms of funding, in order to enable us to get back to those volumes. But more than anything, what we've also focused on is to the, referring to the Joint Operations Center, as you've alluded to, is partnerships amongst ourselves as railways. I hear a lot of people complimenting the port in Mozambique for the volumes that have moved. They've done very well. But what is lost in translation most of the time is that in enabling that, it's been TFR and CFM at the back of that, in a partnership, collaboratively pursuing that. So I said earlier, a customer, when it comes to railways, is in transit. So when you look at customers now, what we do now, in order to get back to those volumes, when you look at customers, we try and establish their requirements before rail and after rail, which leads me to the point then, you mentioned that in time and in full. I would add an element there in terms of practically what we are doing. We are now saying in time, in full, at the right place. The days of us running railways and saying the railways end here and therefore the customer must come back and take over creates a frustration for the customer in two ways. Number one, customer must run around and talk to the port, talk to the last mile service provider, the first mile service provider. The landscape of railways is changing to the extent that we need to be able to sit in front of a customer and provide a solution for logistics from point A to point Z, no gaps in between. That way we empower customers. Lastly, customers talk about, a lot of focus is on pricing when you come to customers. People talk about offering services at the right price. What we've learned over the years and what we are trying to implement now is the fact that you can give customers a good price. If your solution is not reliable and on time, you will cost them money at the end of that value chain, whether through broken opportunities for selling, through demurrage at the port, through additional costs of further handling in other areas. So if you come to a customer and you provide a solution that is comprehensive in nature, with partnerships with other railways where necessary, you've then cut costs for the customer quite significantly. Those are the things that we are doing now to get from customer perspective back to the big numbers. Most importantly, all of those are driven through collaborative initiatives between ourselves and the customer. You can't solution for a customer and leave them out of drawing the solution. They need to have a say. And obviously in doing that, you also are not going to paint all customers with one brush. What Glencore requires is different to what another customer requires. So you need to have an ear that is sensitive enough to understand what customers require, which is why in our space we've moved away from having what we call salespeople representing Transnet and commercial. We've moved to now commodity specialist perspective. So when an individual approaches a customer, they need to wear the hat of owning the entire value chain and the understanding the markets of the customer, the requirements of the customer, the production cycles of the customer, so that you are able to then consolidate a solution that works in partnership. Thanks.
Thanks for that. I think when you mention the different customers, it leads me to calling Unomvuyo, because she mentioned segregation. Not that you guys don't segregate your customers, but it's a point that I want to pick on. Maybe share with us in terms of the proportion of complaints, customers, as a KPI split between the top 10 that I think you spoke about, or your top customers, versus the rest of the customers which you identified how critical they are, yet they may be moving small volumes. If you could take us through that, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, I spoke about our 3 different customer segments, being our bulk customers, being our strategic customers, and then the smaller customers that we attract into the business. So in terms of proportions, in fact, we get a bulk of our revenue from our freight bulk customers. But let me emphasize the fact that the strategic ones remain equally important. Eswatini is an agricultural-based economy. So we cannot then say we will focus on the bulk customers because they give us a lot of the revenue. They are our cash cows. The strategic agricultural sector is important. Why? Because, as I said, if we have a lot of timber exports, if we have a lot of sugar exports, it translates to direct GDP growth. So, and then the smaller customers are equally important because they need to grow, they need to fly the nest. So we will not then say we will not focus on them. So we continuously focus on those customers to make sure that they grow, because come to think of it, even the bigger customers started out as smaller clients. So the most important customers for us are the first 2, no, not the first 2, but all 3 customers. We do give them undivided attention. So, you know, at some point we met with one of the customers, I think 3 days ago, and he was saying that he is hoping that he is one of the most important clients. So we had to reassure him that no customer is important than the other. The attention that we give to one customer is the same undivided attention that we will give to the next customer. In fact, what we have seen over time is that we have come to descend from our strategic role to play a facilitating role. So what does a facilitating role mean? It means that we will descend and start looking for options for customers. Let's say, for example, a customer is saying, I have a port allocation in Maputo. We will say to you, can we not explore Richards Bay, Durban as well as an option for you, so that when you want to move your customers and there are bottlenecks in Maputo or bottlenecks at Richards Bay, Durban, you have options. So that's the first thing we do. We look, we facilitate, and we ensure that our customers have options. Secondly, we've come to understand in our performance review meetings that, you know, sometimes customs clearance becomes an issue and it contributes to inefficiencies and turnaround times, delays, and all that. So what we are doing again is we are establishing an in-house clearing and forwarding unit within ESR. Why are we doing that? Again, we are focusing on reducing the cost of doing business, because if we have in-house clearing, it means we will not charge as much as what our strategic partners, other clearing agents are charging. We will say, overall, if a customer is saying they can only afford so much, at least it gives us the flexibility that if they cannot use an external partner, at least they have the luxury of using ESR. And we will provide that clearing and forwarding services. Again, when you talk about cartage, you know, you find that our customers are saying, okay, ESR, you are allocating this service provider for cartage. Can we not go out and find our own? Because we feel that if we have our own cartage services, then it works cheaper for us. Again, we engage. As I said earlier, our strategy is very, very agile, very adaptive. We listen to the customer and we do as they say. Of course, there's a lot of engagement that happens in between, but ultimately we want to make sure that whatever service we tailor make, it is directly responsive to the needs of the customer.
Thank you for that. In my funny logic, let me still jump into that JOC. Takunda, maybe add, because you're part of this JOC. NRZ is part of the JOC, right?
Correct.
Yeah. From you mentioned customer care when you were talking before, and I'd like to know what KPI do you use? Because it's a nice word, but it's soft. It doesn't tell me that there's a measurement. So help us understand what is the measurement that you use for customer care, and how are you performing, or what initiatives are you doing to try and improve that?
Yeah, obviously, like I said, the customers, they know better what they expect from us. So we normally do some quarterly customer satisfaction surveys so that we know how the customers are rating our services and our performance. Normally, we then come up with a number of KPIs. How are we doing in terms of the price? How are we doing in terms of communication? How are we doing in terms of reaction to derailments and even the recovery part of it? We also ask our customers how we are doing in terms of the efficiencies, like the turnaround times. So we then get feedback from our customers, and then we give them in a maybe on a scale of 10. How would you rate us? Satisfied or dissatisfied? So then we then do an average in terms of how are they rating us. So some of these parameters will be predefined in terms of what the customers want from us. How do we capture this? We do have service level agreements with our customers, where we clearly clarify the obligations and the penalties of the parties. We also have some take-or-pay agreements with their bigger customers or younger customers. So we also go back internally in the organization to sign internal service level agreements between departments, where we then say, as the marketing department, what are the expectations that we have from the traffic department or the operations department. The operations also go on to have an internal service level agreement with the technical division or the resource providers. So we have all these things tied together to ensure that at the end of it all, the customer is getting the service as expected. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Desmond, you have the last one. I feel for you because you spoke about Transkarahari when you mentioned. I think as far back as 2006, this was spoken about. So perhaps the question is, how do you deal with the expectations that get raised with your customers when some of these initiatives are put in play, and then they maybe not necessarily get implemented in the time that they do? If you can take that for us. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. I think if we look specifically at the Trans-Kalahari Rail, I think it was originated in 2011. It's some time back. There are project officers in the various two countries driving this project. Yes, due to various inactivities, minimal to no action. As I mentioned, I've joined in April. And I'm happy to say that there is some very good drive by the two ministries under the leadership of both ministers, Honorable Mutorva on our side and his counterpart in Botswana, which has taken personal interest and cracked the whip in no uncertain terms to the various project teams to make sure it does happen. So recently, I think it was in July, an expression of interest was published for the final study to be done and service providers to be appointed. So quite right, you have to deal with the expectations of customers, the coal transporters, how do they reach the port of Walvis Bay. At the moment where we are supporting is offering end-to-end solutions, but also in collaboration with our road transport colleagues. We have to work intermodal solutions. And we've done quite a few successful where we've take hands with the road transport industry and rail together and find a solution. So yeah, there is lots of expectations, but to manage the expectation, that's a project that will still take a couple of years.
Thank you for that. I think we're out of time. So I think I'm not going to give you last words. I hope you don't take it personally. But suffice to say, I would like to thank everyone that's sitting here. I think the topic of customer service is a very difficult one because there's also the extreme end where you can never satisfy the customer. I do think that the ideas and some of the practices that have come out in this discussion are encouraging, more so the integration. It reminds me of somewhere finding out that even though Usain Bolt has got his 100-meter record, the actual average time of a relay team is faster than that record. So it tells you that through collaboration we can do a lot. And thank you very much for all your ideas. To the team there, I know you have your questions. I'm not sure if Mkoko is giving me a looks. Can I take questions or do I rap? Oh yeah, he says I must rap. You can find the panelist outside to ask for more questions. Thank you so much for attending the session.